The zookeeper calls me Pokey. I wonder why. Does he think I'm slow and pokey? I'm not, for I've slipped out of my cage and run away 2 times. Maybe I'm called Pokey because I'm always poking myself into some mischief. I've not lived in the zoo very long, for I was born in the high mountains of India. I have black fur all over me, except for one band of white on my chest. That little white band looks something like a horseshoe. I guess that is for good luck. How happy I was when I lived in the mountains of India with Mama Bear. My little twin brother and I had the most fun together. We were two lively cubs romping all over our cave home. Sometimes we even scampered up on Mama Bear's back. When she got tired of our playing, she would slap us with her big front paw. It didn't hurt much, but we knew Mama Bear meant for us to obey her, so we would stop teasing and go to sleep. I loved Mama Bear. Her fur was soft and warm to snuggle against at night, and I felt safe when she was near me. One day, Mama Bear went out to get food for us. She told us to stay inside our cave home and be as quiet as mice. We wanted to go with her, but we knew bear cubs were not supposed to go out of the cave. Mama Bear told us we must grow older and wiser first. Little brother cub and I felt lonesome after Mama Bear left. We wondered where she had gone, so we went to the mouth of the cave and peeked out. The sun was warm and inviting. We could not see any danger, so we took a few steps outside. How good the fresh earth smelled! We sniffed the bushes and tasted some berries. Then we saw something moving in the bushes nearby us. Cub Brother and I were curious. We waddled over to see what it was, and that was when we made a terrible mistake. Suddenly, something grabbed me, and I was pushed inside a big sack. I growled and snarled and tried to bite, but I was rolled up like a ball inside that sack. I tried to wriggle, but I could hardly move. If I had only obeyed Mama Bear, I would be back in my snug little nest in my cave home. I cried and whimpered for Mama Bear. Oh, where was she? How I needed her. I was so frightened. I clawed and scratched until I was tired out. Then I guess I went to sleep. The next thing I knew, I was riding in something that went bumpty bump, bumpity bump. We rode and rode for many hours. I was getting very hungry. Why didn't Mama Bear come and bring me something to eat? After a long time, I smelled food. A man opened the sack and gave me some bananas to eat. After I ate all I wanted, the man put me in a box. I liked the box better than the sack. I could stand up and look out between the cracks, but it wasn't like home. Toot, 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 toot. What was that sound? I was so scared I was shaking when the man picked up my box and carried me closer to that horrible noise. I found that it was a train. The man put my box with me inside it in the baggage car. Then he went away and left me all alone. Now I was really frightened. I growled and whined when the train made strange noises. Shh! Ding, ding, ding! Toot, 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 toot! Then it jerked so hard I fell down in the corner of my box. Choo, 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 choo! The train now started to move. It rocked me back and forth, until I went to sleep. When I woke up, I smelled water. The train slowed down, the brakes squealed, and we stopped. Man came and opened my box and gave me some fruit to eat. I was glad when he took me away from that noisy train. He carried me up a gangplank to the deck of a big ship. I watched the sailors walk around the deck. When any of them stopped to look at me, I growled my deepest growl. Grrr, grrr. Sailors would laugh and walk away. Toot, toot. After much shouting by the sailors, the boat moved slowly away from the pier. The man came and opened my box again. This time he put a chain around my neck and let me walk around the deck of the ship. How I enjoyed getting out of that stuffy box. Long before I wanted to stop, the man got tired of walking. He tied my chain to the rail and then he sat down in a comfortable deck chair. I felt so good I rolled and stretched and romped. The sunshine was warm and it made my soft black fur glisten. How I hated to be put back in the box. The man carried me down a stairway and put me in a dark room. Many boxes and barrels were stacked everywhere. I could smell food in some of those barrels, and it made me hungry. I guess I'm always hungry. I felt lonesome in the dark. How I wished Mama Bear would come and take me back to the cave so I could play with my twin brother. When all was quiet, I pushed my nose between the boards of my box. I poked and pushed so hard I finally got one of the boards off. Then I squeezed and squeezed until I got out. At last, I was free. I walked around and sniffed the boxes and barrels. When I found a cozy spot behind some boxes where there was a pile of soft padding, I curled up and soon dreamed I was snuggled close to Mama Bear. I liked my new home so much I didn't want anyone to find me. There was a bunch of bananas and some other fruit in the corner, so I had plenty to eat whenever I was hungry. The next day I heard some men open the door and come into the room. They looked for me in my box. They were surprised to see that it was empty. I kept as quiet as a mouse. They searched and searched, but couldn't find me. I was in the dark behind a big machine. Finally, the men went away. Later, the captain and some of the sailors came to look for me, but they didn't find me either. I heard the captain say, "Poor little bear. He must have wandered up on deck and fallen overboard." I was glad when the men left, for I could enjoy my bananas and other fruit. Then I went to sleep. I chuckled to myself. Here I was, all safe and snug in a soft bed. And best of all, I had plenty to eat. Many days passed before the sailors found me. What a fuss they made over me. The man took me on deck and tied me to the rail again. I stretched and rolled in the warm sunshine. All the sailors seemed happy to see me. Even the captain stopped to watch me. I guess they were glad I hadn't fallen overboard. At last the day came when our boat sailed near land. I wriggled my nose and sniffed the smell of trees and grass. As we sailed into the harbor, we saw a tall bridge ahead of us. Our boat went right under it. The sailors were talking about the Golden Gate. Finally, our boat docked at a pier in San Francisco. My new home was to be in this big city. I heard the honk, honk of auto horns and the ding, ding of cable car bells. It was here that I first met the zookeeper. I think he must have been expecting me on this boat, for he had a truck waiting at the dock. He put my box on the truck and took me out to the Fleshhacker Zoo. Isn't that a long name for the home of a little bear? was not very fat when I arrived at the zoo. The keeper put me in a special cage near his office. He gave me all I wanted to eat: melons, lettuce, bread, milk, and many kinds of fruit. I ate and ate, and the good food helped me grow. I felt so good I decided I would get out of the cage. I wanted to go and find Mama Bear. Every day I chewed and chewed on the wooden bars of my cage. The hole got bigger and bigger. When I poked my nose in the hole, it was almost big enough to squeeze through. The next day, the zookeeper saw the hole I had chewed, so he moved me to an iron cage. Since iron is too hard to chew, he was certain I was safe. But wait, I fooled him later. Many boys and girls came by my cage. Some of them would stop and watch me for a long time. I climbed up the bars of the cage looking for a way to get out. Then I would slide down the bars, bumpity bump, bumpity bump. How the children laughed. I like to imagine I was chasing Cub Brother around and around in the forest. Sometimes I skidded on the wet pavement and slid to the other side of the cage. The boys and girls laughed and laughed. The more I played, the more people stopped to look at me. This was great fun. One day, when no one was around, I poked my head between the iron bars. I squeezed and I squeezed and pushed and pushed. Finally, I squeezed out through the iron bars. It was wonderful to be free. But where should I go? I ran across the road and hid in some bushes. I kept very quiet so that no one found me. When it was dark, I ran into the woods. If I heard anyone coming near, I hid in the bushes. And the woods were not far from the ocean. At night, I went down to the beach to look for food. I found some scraps that picnickers had left in the sand. One evening, a man saw me and came running after me. I hid in some berry bushes so he didn't find me. It was fun to be free. If only I could find Mama Bear, everything would be all right. One night after I had been out of my cage for 20 days, I smelled oranges and meat in a box. I poked my head in the box and grabbed the oranges and ate them. Then I reached for the meat. Suddenly, a rope fell on me. I jumped and ran as fast as I could. It was a trap to catch me, but I was too clever, and so I got away. I ran and ran, for I remembered what Mama Bear had told me to keep away from traps. I slept in the woods, safely hidden from the men who were searching for me. The next night I smelled food again. The picnickers had not left enough scraps on the beach for me, so I was very hungry. I reached in the box for food. Bang! The lid dropped on me, and I was caught in a trap. I ate the food, but I could not get out of the box. Early the next morning, the zookeeper found me. "Hello, Pokey, you little runaway bear. What a monkey you've made out of me," he shouted. The keeper took me back to the zoo and put me in a bear grotto. He wanted to be sure I would not get away again. I liked the bear grotto, for there was lots of room to run and play. What fun it was to splash in the big pool of water. "Now, Pokey, you will never be able to run away again," the zookeeper said. "You won't climb those 12-foot walls, and you can't get across that deep ditch. You are safe here." The bear grotto was the best home I had found since I left my cave in the mountains of India. The boys and girls threw peanuts, popcorn, and candy to me. I soon learned to sit up, so the boys and girls would throw more peanuts to me. Sometimes I would sit in the pool of water and lie back on its smooth side. I lived in the bear grotto for about 6 months. Then I decided it was time for me to look for Mama Bear again. The walls of the bear grotto were steep. Again and again I tried to climb up the wall, but always slipped back. How would I find Mama Bear inside these walls? One day, when no one was watching me, I climbed up the high wall of the grotto. It was a real climb. All right, but I finally reached the top. I ran to a high fence and climbed over it. Once more, I was free. I was hungry, and I started to look for food. Sniff, sniff. Yes, I smelled food. So I ran to find it. And I saw people eating their picnic dinners. I decided to ask for something to eat. But as soon as the women saw me, they screamed and ran away from me. I didn't bother them, for all I wanted was something to eat. When the ladies screamed, I got scared. So I scampered up the nearest tree. Everything was fine in the big tree until I saw the zookeeper coming. He stood under the tree, coaxing me to come down. Finally, I decided to obey. But I did not slide down the tree trunk as the zookeeper expected. Instead, I jumped and landed almost on top of the zookeeper. I started running, but the zookeeper came after me with a rope. I saw he was going to catch me, so I turned and ran as fast as my little legs would carry me. I ran straight toward the bear grotto. If I could get there first, I was sure the zookeeper would be glad to see me safe back in my home. I was in such a hurry to get back in my grotto, I made a serious mistake. I jumped over the wrong fence. I scrambled down the steep wall and landed right in the grotto of 4 black bears. Their names are Oscar, Mary, Jack, and Lulabelle. I didn't have time to get acquainted, though, for those black bears didn't like me. They chased me round and round. I tried to be friendly, but they didn't like to have me in their grotto. I climbed up the wall again and slid down the other side. Whoopee! I made the worst mistake you could ever imagine. I landed in the grotto of Sam, the giant grizzly bear. Sam was sitting in the sun when I ran up to him. I wanted to be friendly and play, but he didn't like me either. Grrr, he growled, then slapped me and started to fight. His mate Sue came running to help, but Sam was so big and I was so little he didn't need any help. He squeezed me until I could hardly breathe. When I saw I could not get away from Sam, the hugger, I bit his nose. I guess it hurt him, for he let me go. While this was going on, the zookeeper and his helpers were shouting, ringing bells, and firing guns, trying to scare Sam. I guess they were afraid he would squeeze me to death. I was scared too, so I climbed up the wall and slid down the other side. This time I did the right thing, for I landed in my own grotto. How nice and quiet it was. I was tired after my exciting adventure, so I lay down and went to sleep. Yes, I am Pokey, the runaway bear. If you want to see me, you will find me at Fleshhacker Zoo in San Francisco. I like to see the boys and girls who come to visit me. They give me so many good things to eat. I don't know whether I'll run away again or not. I'll see about that later.